Majlis akan dimulakan tidak berapa lama lagi dan untuk itu sekecita memohon kerjasama para hadirin sekalian agar dapat memastikan mikrofon tidak diaktifkan bagi mengelakkan sebarang gangguan dan majlis dapat berjalan dengan lancar. Terima kasih. Bagi pihak majlis, saya ingin merakamkan jutaan terima kasih kepada hadirin sekalian yang dapat meluangkan masa untuk menghadiri program SLIP Siri 4 pada hari ini. Bagi memberkati majlis pada hari ini, saya menjemput saudara Muhammad Izzuddin untuk memimpin bacaan doa. Dipersilakan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Inna bil karim walidina minal muslimina wal muslimat wal mu'minina wal mu'minatil kiramil Fatihah. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma inna nas'aluka salamata fid din wa 'afiyata fi jasad wa ziyadata fi 'ilmi wa barakata fi rizq wa taubatan qabla maut wa rahmatan indal maut wa maghfiratan ba'da maut. Allahumma dafinin wa dina wal akhirah. Allahumma fini wa li walidina warhamna kama rabbana shighara. Allahumma aftah 'alaina hikmataka wa anshur 'alaina min hadaini rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Rabbi israh li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Qalu subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir fa inna tasir wa kulli 'asirin 'alaika yassir. Allahumma tamim bil khair bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Allahumma inna na'udzubika minal baras wal junun wal juzaa wa min sayyidil asqam bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Rabbana hab lana min azwajina wa dzurriyyatina qurrata a'yun waj'alna lil muttaqina imama. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar wa qina azabannar wa qina azabannar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa baraka wassalam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Allahu minkum wa minkum taqabbal.
Amin amin ya rabbal alamin. Terima kasih atas bacaan doa itu sebentar tadi. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Sri Abdul Wahid Umar, Pengerusi Lembaga Pengarah Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, Yang Berusaha Puan Zahara binti Abdul Samad, Ketua Persakawan Perpustakaan Tunku Tun Aminah UTHM, merangkap Ketua Program SLIP, yang dihormati Puan Rugaya Ali selaku moderator program, Barisan Ketua-Ketua Pustakawan Universiti Awam, Barisan Timbalan-Timbalan Ketua Pustakawan Universiti Awam, tuan-tuan, puan-puan, para peserta program yang dihormati. Program pada hari ini adalah kesinambungan daripada program SLIP Siri 3 yang telah dijalankan pada hari semalam. Program SLIP merupakan kolaborasi di antara Akademi Kepimpinan Pendidikan Tinggi (AKAP), Jawatankuasa Ketua Pustakawan Universiti Awam dan Perpustakaan Tunku Tun Aminah Universiti Tun Husin On Malaysia. Program ini bertujuan bagi memantapkan kelestarian kepimpinan pegawai kanan perpustakaan dan juga memperkasa peranan ketua pustakawan dalam menepani perubahan ekosistem pendidikan tinggi yang sangat dinamik dan mencabar serta perlu peningkatan kompetisi kepimpinan. Para hadirin sekalian, program SLIP akan diteruskan lagi dengan perkongsian daripada Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Sri Abdul Wahid bin Umar dengan topik Purposeful Leadership and Sustainability. Untuk makluman, program ini akan dikendalikan oleh Yang Dihormati Puan Rugaya binti Ali selaku moderator program. Untuk pengetahuan Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri, Puan Rugaya Ali merupakan Ketua Pustakawan di Perpustakaan Hamzah Sendut Universiti Sains Malaysia. Beliau berpengalaman luas dalam bidang kepustakawanan selama 31 tahun. Beliau memiliki ijazah sarjana muda kepujian biologi dalam bidang genetik Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia dan lepasan ijazah sains perpustakaan dan maklumat Institut Teknologi Mara, kini dikenali sebagai UiTM. Beliau juga pernah berkhidmat sebagai pegawai takbir di Perpustakaan Perubatan Universiti Sains Malaysia. Beliau menjawat jawatan sebagai Pengerusi Persatuan Pustakawan Malaysia PPM Kumpulan Utara sehingga kini. Beliau amat aktif sebagai penceramah dan fasilitator berkaitan kualiti seperti Lean Management, MSISO, 5S, Blue Ocean Strategy, QCC serta penerima anugerah Quality Champion Practitioner oleh MPC pada tahun 2016. Tanpa melengahkan masa lagi, majlis dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan Yang Dihormati Puan Rukayah binti Ali bersama-sama Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Seri Abdul Wahid bin Omar dengan perkongsian sesi pertama Purposeful Leadership and Sustainability. Dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan.
Ya, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, dan terima kasih kepada pengerusi majlis Puan Arianti Ahmad. Yang saya hormati, yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Seri Abdul Wahid Omar, pengerusi Lembaga Pengarah Universiti UKM, yang berusaha Puan Hajah Zahra binti Abdul Samad, Ketua Pustakawan Perpustakaan Tunku Tun Aminah UTHM, merangkap Ketua Program Exlib, barisan Ketua-Ketua Pustakawan Universiti Awam, timbalan Ketua Pustakawan Universiti Awam, ahli jawatankuasa Exlib dan juga sekretariat daripada UTHM, serta tuan-tuan dan puan-puan para hadirin yang saya muliakan. Alhamdulillah, bersyukur kita kehadrat Ilahi kerana dengan limpah kurnia dianugerahkan kesihatan yang baik pada pagi ini dan kita semua dapat berkumpul walaupun secara maya dengan mematuhi norma baru bersama-sama untuk mengikuti perkongsian ilmiah daripada Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri berkaitan dengan Purposeful Leadership and Sustainability. Ini satu tajuk yang sangat signifikan bagi meningkatkan kompetensi ketua pustakawan dan juga timbalan-timbalan ketua pustakawan yang ini menghadapi dengan dunia VUCA dan sebagainya, dan kita memerlukan beberapa kompetensi yang agak berbeza daripada yang biasa kita dengar mengenai kepustakawanan, dan kita akan sentiasa berubah mengikut perubahan dari segi teknologi dan juga keperluan semasa. Jadi majlis tidak lupa untuk mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri kerana sudi menerima jemputan kami. Memang kita agak tahu Tan Sri punya jadual agak padat dan alhamdulillah dapat meluangkan masa untuk bersama-sama kita pada pagi ini. Jadi saya sebelum kita meneruskan majlis, izinkan saya berkongsi profil biodata Tan Sri. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Seri Abdul Wahid Omar, berumur 57 tahun, muda lagi, berasal daripada Johor Bahru, merupakan pengerusi Bursa Malaysia dan juga pengerusi Lembaga Pengarah Universiti UKM. Beliau merupakan seorang pemimpin korporat yang versatile yang telah berjaya menerajui 4 organisasi utama di Malaysia dalam sektor pembangunan infrastruktur, telekomunikasi, perkhidmatan keuangan dan juga pengurusan pelaburan. Dan beliau telah dilantik sebagai pengerusi Kumpulan Permodalan Nasional Berhad PNB mulai Ogos 2016 hingga Jun 2018, telah lengkap tempoh beliau sebagai senator dan menteri di Jabatan Perdana Menteri yang bertanggungjawab ke atas unit perancangan ekonomi mulai Jun 2013 hingga Jun 2016. Sebelum beliau menyertai kabinet, Tan Sri Abdul Wahid pernah menjadi presiden dan juga ketua pegawai eksekutif Maybank, syarikat yang tersenarai yang terbesar di Malaysia dan salah sebuah kumpulan perbankan terkemuka di Asia Tenggara sejak Mei 2008. Beliau diberi kepercayaan untuk melaksanakan transformasi untuk menjadikan Maybank kumpulan perbankan serantau dan peneraju global dalam keuangan Islam. Sebelum menyertai Maybank, beliau adalah ketua pegawai eksekutif Kumpulan Telekom Malaysia Berhad PM dari bulan Julai 2004 hingga dipisahkan dengan Axiata Group Berhad pada bulan Mei 2008. Beliau juga pernah dilantik sebagai pengarah urusan Ketua Pegawai Eksekutif UEM Group Berhad, di mana peranan pertamanya sebagai Ketua Pegawai Eksekutif pada usia yang muda 37 tahun. Beliau berjaya menerajui UEM Group, sebuah konglomerat infrastruktur terbesar di Malaysia yang ketika itu baru sahaja diambil alih oleh Khazanah Nasional Berhad. Tan Sri Abdul Wahid adalah seorang adalah ahli Association of Chartered Certified Accountant ACCA UK, Institute of Chartered Accountant in England and Wales ICAEW, dan Malaysian Institute of Accountant MIA. Jasa dan sumbangan Tan Sri Abdul Wahid sangat-sangat besar, terutama dalam dunia korporat, dan beliau telah menerima anugerah dan pengiktirafan sepanjang kerjaya beliau selama 30 tahun, termasuk anugerah Malaysian CEO of the Year 2006 daripada Business Times, American Express, dan The ASEAN Bankers 2013, The ASEAN Bankers 2013 Leadership Achievement Award for Malaysia, dan juga The Age Value Creator Award 2013. Beliau juga telah dianugerahkan dengan ijazah kehormat kedoktoran ekonomi oleh Universiti Multimedia Malaysia pada tahun 2014 dan ijazah kehormat falsafah ekonomi dan pentadbiran muamalat oleh Universiti Sains Islam Malaysia pada tahun 2016. Tan Sri Abdul Wahid kini merupakan pemegang amanah WWF Malaysia, Professor of Practice of INSIF, the Global University of Islamic Finance, dan sebagai Fellow Pelawat of Oxford Center for Islamic Studies UK. Jelas ketokohan dan yang ada pada beliau yang punya pengalaman yang sangat luas, menerajui beberapa bidang. Jadi alhamdulillah kita dapat mengharapkan agar dapat dikongsi pengalaman dan skill ataupun kemahiran dari segi pimpinan dan sebagainya kepada kami pada pagi ini. Jadi tanpa meninggalkan masa, saya dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Sri Abdul Wahid bin Umar mengupas tajuk Purposeful Leadership and Sustainability. Okey, silakan Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri.
Terima kasih Puan Gaya atas pengenalan yang amat bermurah hati, generous introduction. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, dan salam sejahtera yang berbahagia Puan Hajah Zahrah Abdul Samad, kira tuan rumah untuk pada pagi ini secara virtual. Puan Gaya, Puan Arianti, Ketua Pustakawan dan Timbalan Ketua Pustakawan Universiti Awam sekalian, terima kasih kerana sudi menjemput saya untuk membuatkan pembentangan pada pagi ini. Sebenarnya apabila saya menerima surat dan jemputan itu, saya terfikir juga bagaimana nak membuatkan pembentangan kepada sekumpulan pustakawan dalam transformasi perpustakaan, di mana bagi saya ini bukanlah merupakan satu area di mana saya mempunyai kepakaran. Sebab itu saya minta kalau boleh saya menceritakan sedikit tentang pengalaman saya di sektor korporat, dan mungkin ada elemen-elemen yang boleh digunakan pakai dalam mentadbirkan perpustakaan. Jadi saya mohon maaf kalau apa yang saya bentangkan pada pagi ini amat sentrik kepada korporat, sebab sebenarnya itulah bagi saya yang kepakaran saya mengikut pengalaman saya. Dan saya juga bertuah kerana dapat bersama-sama dengan golongan intelek. Bermakna kalau kita katakan para akademia ini, mereka memang sudah tentunya banyak memerlukan sokongan daripada pustakawan, di mana mereka banyak dapat maklumat-maklumat untuk membolehkan mereka membuat kajian, research untuk mereka mendapatkan PhD dan sebagainya. Dan saya juga bertuah kerana dapat bersama-sama dengan kesemua 20 universiti awam dalam kumpulan ini. Termasuklah saya difahamkan wakil daripada UKM sendiri pun ada, Encik Azmi dan juga Puan Azmah. So anyway, kalau boleh saya kongsikan saya punya slide-nya sebentar. So okay, kalau boleh saya diberikan masa sehingga 9.30, jadi satu masa 10.30 pagi ya. Jadi satu masa yang panjang. Jadi saya bercadang agar membuat pembincangan separuh daripada masa itu, mungkin dalam masa 45 minit lebih kurang, dan bakinya kita adakan sesi Q&A insyaAllah. Dan dalam sesi Q&A nanti, saya mohon kalau boleh tanyalah apa-apa juga soalan yang dirasakan mahu dijawab. Tidak semestinya tertumpu kepada apa yang saya bentangkan pada pagi ini, tapi juga kalau nak bertanya tentang ekonomi, isu-isu berkaitan dengan COVID dan sebagainya, insyaAllah saya akan cuba menjawabnya. Jadi alhamdulillah seperti yang Puan Rogayah sebut dalam saya akan membentangkan dalam 3 bahagian. Pertama sekali tentang organizational transformation and the importance of purpose, matlamat dan tujuan kita. Kedua adalah berkenaan dengan organizational core values, nilai teras sesebuah organisasi yang penting untuk diterapkan kepada semua warga organisasi tersebut untuk membolehkan organisasi tersebut mencapai matlamatnya. Dan ketiga, tentang 8 perkara bagi saya yang penting untuk memastikan sesebuah organisasi itu terus maju walaupun selepas perkhidmatan ketua yang sedia ada. Sebab kadang-kadang tu kita lihat bagaimana ada seseorang itu yang dikatakan sebagai seorang pemimpin yang baik, tetapi apabila beliau pergi, organisasi itu jatuh. Bagi saya itu bermakna mungkin ketua tersebut tidak menyediakan organisasi tersebut untuk berkesinambungan selepas pembagian mereka. Dan seperti yang disebutkan oleh Puan Rogayah sebentar tadi, sebenarnya saya memang amat bertuah kerana telah diberi peluang untuk mendapatkan satu kerjaya yang amat bermakna sepanjang lebih 30 tahun berkhidmat. Saya sebenarnya seperti yang Puan Rogayah sebut tadi, memang berasal dari Johor Bahru, daripada sebuah keluarga yang susah, tetapi telah bertuah diberikan peluang untuk pergi ke MRSM Seremban, mendapat pendidikan yang baik, dan sebahagian besarnya banyak juga masa yang dihabiskan di dalam perpustakaan. Sebab masa itu di MRSM Seremban ada satu library yang baru dibina, memang very nice masih. Bila ada aircon tu ramailah sedang pergi pastinya. So anyway, saya telah diberi peluang untuk pergi ke UK membuat ACCA, Professional Accountancy, dan ditaja oleh Mara, dan alhamdulillah apabila balik ke Malaysia bercita-cita untuk menjadi seorang CFO, Chief Financial Officer, tetapi alhamdulillah telah diberikan peluang untuk lebih daripada itu. Dan dalam banyak-banyak peranan yang saya mainkan, saya memang bertuah kerana telah diberi peluang untuk menerajui 4 organisasi yang mempunyai matlamat yang jelas. So it is actually very important for us to be clear about the purpose of us being there. So in my case, saya bertuah kerana telah diberi peluang untuk menerajui penambahbaikan di kumpulan UM, di Telkom Malaysia, di Maybank, dan kemudiannya di PNB. Untuk yang pertama itu, if I may do this in English, if I may, just to better articulate. Now, I was 37 years old, and I was at that point in time the Chief Financial Officer of Telkom Malaysia. And back in 2001, ada satu masalah di mana kumpulan UM ni telah berkembang dengan begitu cepat sekali sebagai sebuah kumpulan ataupun konglomerat infrastruktur yang terbesar di Malaysia. It's actually the largest public listed company on Bursa Malaysia at that point in time. But it was growing very fast through borrowings. And at the peak, UM Group had some 30 billion ringgit of borrowings, and some of them were actually in foreign currency. So naturally, when the Asian financial crisis hit the country, then our ringgit weakened. So when you have borrowings in US dollars, so what that meant was that overnight, your borrowings had increased by some 80%. So that resulted in many companies going under, so to speak. So that included Group that was actually under threat of being liquidated. So when I was appointed, obviously it was not just about being a CEO and doing a simple turnaround, but it was also about addressing the corporate governance overhang issue. It's about protecting the national assets from falling into foreign hands, because Group own quite a number of major infrastructure, like all the highways, the LRT systems, and so on. And it's also about saving 24,000 jobs. So if Group were to collapse, so some 24,000 people will lose their jobs, and some banks will also be losing a lot of money. So again, it's about being clear. It's not just about a simple turnaround of a company, but it's also about doing more than that. So the second opportunity that I had was in the transformation of telecom region to be a regional telco. So in this case, the mission was about creating a Malaysian company that will excel in the region. So beyond Malaysian borders into all the ASEAN region and all other Asian countries as well. So to create that regional champion and to fly the Malaysian flag. The third is in the transformation of Maybank to be a regional banking group and to be a global leader in Islamic finance. I'll come back to that a bit later. And the fourth is about building PNB to be a distinctive world-class investment house. So beyond its original mission of mobilizing funds from the Trial Committee to be invested into the corporate sector, it's about then transforming PNB to become much bigger than that, if I may. So I must say that the most impactful and purposeful experience that I had was actually with Maybank, where I was appointed on 1st of May 2008. And at that point in time, there were three major challenges facing Maybank. One was to follow through on the three major acquisitions that Maybank had embarked on, costing some 11 billion ringgit. And there was a need to raise the necessary debt and equity funding to fund that acquisition. Secondly, was to deal with the global financial crisis that was unfolding at that point in time. So some of you may remember that by 2008, by September, many global banks were collapsing, including Lehman Brothers, even Citibank, which was that very big American bank, almost collapsed, but they were rescued by the Federal Reserve Bank. And I still remember getting that call from the CEO of Citibank in Malaysia, asking for help from Maybank to make available some money, because at that point in time, they were experiencing a bank run of their branch in Penang, meaning that the customers were withdrawing their money from the branch in big quantities. So at that point in time, to my mind, I said to myself that I do not want to be the one making that call to someone else to seek help. So therefore, important for us to protect the integrity of Maybank and also of the other local banks as well. The third was more pronounced in the sense that there was a need to improve the financial performance of Maybank, which was growing by only 5% per annum between 2003 and 2008, when the competitors like Maybank, CIMB, Public Bank, and RHB were growing by 20% per annum in terms of assets and profits. Now, in fact, many people had already come to that conclusion, because when we did our analysis, if we can only grow by 5% per annum and others were growing faster, within 2 years, both CIMB and Public Bank would have overtaken Maybank, and Maybank would have been relegated to number 3. Most analysts had already come up to that conclusion, because in terms of market capitalization, the value of Maybank in the stock market actually dropped to that of below CIMB's market value and Public Bank's market value by March 2009. So it was certainly most challenging. Now, I still remember that in my first year in office at Maybank, we had some 24 board meetings. So 24 mesyuarat lembaga pengarah, which was very taxing on the management, of course. And that was mostly to deal with the issue of the acquisitions, and in particular the acquisition of BII in Indonesia. But Alhamdulillah, we managed to renegotiate the acquisition, and we were able to obtain 1 billion ringgit discount from the pricing. And BII is now an integral part of Maybank's regional strategy. Now back to the performance. So what we did was to demonstrate to the Maybank people that we had a problem, because before that they were under the impression that Maybank was number one, and therefore every year record profit and so on, that will continue. But when we started to show them the real underlying figures and the trend, and of course everyone was put on notice or put on this burning platform, and everyone then resolved that we want to fight back. And that's when we came up with the performance improvement program that we call Leap 30. It's a series of 30 initiatives identified to improve Maybank's performance and to restore its market leadership. And these are things like how do you stimulate sales, how do you optimize your costs, how do you improve your service at the branches. So for example, our average waiting time was more than 20 minutes. Then we say, okay, it's just too long. We need to bring it down to 5 minutes, for example. And what are the things that we need to do? So Alhamdulillah, within 18 months of working very hard, we were able to grow the assets and deposits. We were able to improve our customer service. Our asset quality also improved. And with that, our profit after tax bounced back to a record 3.8 billion ringgit for the financial year 2010. And with that, Maybank was back as the #1 bank in Malaysia and the most valuable company listed on Bursa Malaysia until today, Alhamdulillah, where we have a market cap of close to 100 billion ringgit. But having said that, we were really worried about this sustainability. Why? Because we were working long hours. So for me personally, it was between 12 to 16 hours every day, day in, day out. And in fact, half of the time, you can still find me working in the office beyond midnight. And most of the management meetings were held after dinner. Why? Because there was so much to do. And that's why we had our management meeting even after dinner. And that will end just before night. And after that, on some days, I still have to go through some memos and so on. So the point here is actually, yes, you can do this for 6 months, 1 year, but beyond 18 months, it was just physically impossible. It was wearing us down. So professional fatigue was setting in and so on. So that's when we said, look, we cannot continue like this forever. It's not sustainable. And therefore, we need to address some of the fundamental issues. So for example, we need to remove the silos that we have among our various divisions and improve the processes and so on, instead of doing the workaround and so on. So, and we then said, look, we also need to find the real mission, the real purpose of our being here. So that's when we gathered the top 1,000 leaders of Maybank. These are all your directors, your general managers, your branch managers, and so on. So we assembled them at the Putrajaya International Convention Center, PICC, and that's when we brainstormed and we agreed to come up with that new mission for Maybank of humanizing financial services and to build a new house of Maybank, so to speak. So this mission of humanizing financial services, or purpose, if you like, it means about providing people with convenient access to financing. It's about giving our customers fair terms and pricing, advising our clients and customers based on their needs rather than how much money we can make. And it is truly about being at the heart of the community, both the people community as well as the business community. So organizationally, we then developed that new house of Maybank, where we simplified the organization structure to have the three pillars of community franchise services or retail banking, if you like, global wholesale banking, and then our insurance and takaful, with Islamic operations and international operations cutting across that, and supported by a strong platform, if I may. And with that approach, we simplified further the processes, and Alhamdulillah, Maybank continued to extend its leadership as the #1 bank in Malaysia and one of the top regional banking groups in ASEAN, with presence across all the ASEAN countries. And when this was put in place, Alhamdulillah, I did not have to work 16 hours anymore per day. That means that I can work up to 12 hours, meaning I can start work at 8 o'clock in the morning. And by Maghrib, I would have finished all the work. And after Maghrib, I can either go back home to have dinner with the family, or I can go out and have dinner with clients and so on. And Alhamdulillah, I thought I would show you this slide where you can see from here where when I mentioned about Maybank was growing by Maybank was growing by only 5% per annum, and the other competitors, Public Bank in red and CIMB in black, were growing much faster. And by 2008, they were getting very close and about to overtake Maybank. And in fact, in 2009, because of the losses that we had to impair from our acquisition in Pakistan and Indonesia, we had to impair about 2 billion ringgit. Maybank's profit actually dipped to 700 million ringgit. But if you were to add back that one-time impairment of 2 billion, so normalized profit would be about 2.7 billion ringgit. So that's actually around that level, where you can see just about to be overtaken by CIMB and Public Bank. But Alhamdulillah, with the LEAP 30 performance improvement program, we managed to grow the profit to 3.8 billion ringgit, then to 4.4 billion ringgit, to 5.6 billion ringgit, and then to 6.4 billion ringgit in the year that I left to join the cabinet. So you can see by that time, the gap between Maybank, #1, and #2, CIMB, then #3, Public Bank, has widened tremendously. And that gap widened until today, and Alhamdulillah. So this was in 2019. In 2020, of course, with COVID, the pandemic, COVID-19, all banks suffered a drop in profits, but you can still see the gap between Maybank and the rest of the banks still maintained. So the point what to me here is actually when you do something, you fulfill your purpose, you will then be able to ensure that whatever you're doing can be more sustainable rather than if it's just purely for profit and so on. So I thought I would share that with you. Now, another element which I thought would be useful for me to share is in the way we approach Islamic banking in Maybank. Now, when I joined Maybank in 2008, many family members were asking, kenapa nak masuk bank? Sebab riba. Dulu kerja dekat Telekom Malaysia, halal, so tak ada isu tentang sumber pendapatan. Tapi bila masuk bank ni ada yang kata riba, tidak berkat dan sebagainya. Jadi, of course, that got me thinking about is there something that we can do to promote Islamic banking in Maybank and in Malaysia. So together with our friends in Maybank, we then thought about, okay, what if we can make it our mission to grow the Islamic finance in Maybank such that one day the majority of the financing in Maybank will be Sharia compliant. Now, we were very much inspired by the concept of supermarket. Now, the simple analogy that we did was when we look at the Tesco supermarket. So, if you were to go to the Tesco supermarket in London, so there's one on Brompton Road. So you will have the photo that I show here. there's a halal section, so where they have halal meat, lamb, chicken, beef, and so on. But the rest of the supermarket is not necessarily halal, right? But if you were to go to the same Tesco supermarket here in Malaysia, you'll find that actually is the other way around. So you have that the small alcohol section and pork section, but the rest of the supermarket is actually halal. So in the past, if you were to go to a Maybank branch, it's a conventional bank, but with a small Islamic finance window. So what we did was to invert it. So we said, okay, you walk into any Maybank branch, automatically we will offer you the Sharia compliant products without you even asking. But unless you want a specific non-Sharia compliant product, commercial product, yes, we have that offering too. So what we found that when we did this, of course, initially the non-Muslim customers were asking what's the difference and so on. When we explained, the vast majority of them actually accepted the Sharia compliant version. So with that approach, alhamdulillah, we were able to grow Islamic finance very fast within Maybank, such that Maybank today is now the largest, not only the largest bank in Malaysia, Islamic bank in Malaysia. Here you can see 255 billion ringgit of assets. Maybank Islamic is actually 3 times bigger than Bank Islam. But Maybank Islamic is also the 5th largest Islamic bank in the world. And it's also renowned as a global leader in Islamic finance, especially if you talk about the Islamic capital market, for example. So the point I wanted to make here is that, again, if you anchor what you're doing, not just about a job, but with a clear purpose, I think inshallah it'll be a barakah, and the outcome will be more pronounced, if I may. So just for the record, debt assets of 255 billion ringgit in terms of financing, Maybank's Islamic financing now makes up 60% of Maybank's total financing here in Malaysia. So alhamdulillah, our mission that we set out to do back in 2008, 13 years ago, alhamdulillah, has been accomplished. And hopefully that will inspire the other banks too. In fact, it has. So Maybank's approach of Islamic first strategy has now been adopted by CIMB, RHB, even Hong Leong has adopted this strategy. So that's why you see in Malaysia here, the total Islamic assets has reached 817 billion ringgit in terms of financing, and that's about 40%, 41% of the total financing in Malaysia. And hopefully that will continue to grow. And again, the hope is actually one day majority of Islamic financing in Malaysia will be Sharia compliant. Now, another example of having clear purpose is actually when we were at PNB. Now, PNB, as we all know, has been very effective in terms of mobilizing the funds from the Bumi Putra community collectively to be invested into equities and other forms of investments. And alhamdulillah, today we have mobilized some 300 billion ringgit of the funds to be invested into the market. So when I joined PNB, what we did together with Dr. Rahman, the CEO then, we then developed the new strategic plan for PNB to build PNB to be a distinctive world-class investment house. Why distinctive? Distinctive because PNB is the only unit trust management company in the world that offers unit trust funds based on fixed principal amount. Means that you can go in and out at the par value of 1 ringgit. Most others will have to be based on the market value. So that's why I say unique. So our model is actually very simple. In good years, we do not distribute all the dividends, all the profits as dividends. We reserve some, put into reserves, so that in tough years, when the dividends or profits are not so good, we actually draw on the reserves to actually maintain a healthy and competitive dividend. So that's a simple model. World-class because we would like to benchmark ourselves against the best fund managers in the world, in terms, not just in terms of performance, but also in terms of investment methodology, risk management, asset allocation, and so on. And for that, we outlined 15 clear initiatives to be implemented under the 3 pillars of enhancing sustainable returns, effective investment management, and driving operational excellence. So what we did was to make sure that each one is actually very clear and people understand what they're supposed to do. And it was followed through with a very rigorous execution of the plan. And Alhamdulillah, within 1 year itself, we were able to achieve significant outcome in 2017. Now, in terms of performance, for example, the 16.8% increase in net income, and in terms of dividends, we were able to increase our dividend amount to 8.25% overall. And in terms of the value of our strategic companies, it improved by 26%. So which is double compared to the increase of the other public listed companies on Bursa Malaysia then. But perhaps one of the things that we would like to highlight here is actually item 3 here. Now, this is interesting in the sense that when I joined PNB, we realized that all the fatwa committees of all the states have decreed that the investment in the ESN, ESB, the all halal, harus, except for Selangor and Penang. So it was becoming a problem because when Selangor and Penang said that investment in ESN, ESB is not Sharia compliant, then a lot of people were starting to actually withdraw. So what we did was to engage with the fatwa committees in both Selangor and Penang. And what we did was actually to adjust our portfolio to meet their requirements. So effectively at that point in time, we said, okay, no more non-halal stocks, in the sense that memang PNB pun tak pernah invest dalam alcohol stocks sebelum tu. Tapi ada investment dalam BAT sebagai contoh, rokok yang makro. So what we did was to say, look, okay, no more tobacco, no more alcohol and the rest. And we also said, okay, for investment in fixed income, we're going to migrate to only the sukuk, social compliant, and likewise in terms of deposits also substantially will be in the Sharia compliant instruments and so on. And alhamdulillah, when we did that, and then we actually presented to the 2 committees, then by the end of 2017, they had changed their fatwa to say that it's also harus. So alhamdulillah, so with that, the confidence in investments in PNB from among the Muslim community actually enhanced. So again, the point I wanted to make here is actually anchor our what we do on purpose, and I think inshallah Allah will akan permudahkan inshallah. Now, the next part of my presentation will be to talk about core values. Now, if you want any organization to be sustainable, it cannot be just that one leader who's doing all the job and so on. It must be truly embraced by everyone. So there must be leadership by example, and there must be the core values of that organization that will be embraced by every single person in that organization. Now, this set of core values, what are they? Well, they are a set of fundamental beliefs of that organization. They are the guiding principles that help to define how the organization should behave in the way that it conducts business. They are the guiding principles that dictate the behavior of all the employees, and they support the organization's vision and shape its culture, and they are also the values that will help to ensure that all employees will be working towards the same goals. Now, sometimes we tend to make our core values very complicated. And if it's too complicated, people have difficulty to understand, they can't remember and so on. So I think it's actually very important for all of us to make sure that our core values will be something that people can remember easily, can then internalize and practice it. So in the case of Maybank, for example, when I joined Maybank, what we did was not many people actually, well, it was a very much profit-driven organization, but we felt that there was need to actually rehash the mission. So what we did was to coin it into the acronym TIGER, which is actually the logo used by Maybank, if I may. So it's about teamwork, integrity, growth, excellence and efficiency, and relationship building. So teamwork, for example, is about working together as a team based on mutual respect and dignity. Integrity is about being honest, professional, and ethical in all our dealings. Growth is about being passionate about constant improvement and innovation. Excellence and efficiency is about delivering outstanding performance and superior service. And relationship building is about building that long-term relationship. Again, not just with our customers, but also with other stakeholders. Now, similarly, in the case of Bursa Malaysia, which I share now, we've simplified our core values using the acronym Bursa. It's about being bold, united, responsible, synergistic, and being agile. Bold, for example, is about being competent, confident, and transparent. That we lead by example, that we're committed to growth and excellence. And united is about acting. It's about embracing diversity and inclusion. It's about trusting, respecting, and caring for each other. And it's about fostering togetherness and teamwork and so on. So I think you can see that it's actually very clear so that people understand that they can actually embrace it. In the case of UKM, we used to have KAMI, which is keserakanan, accountability, merit, inovasi, dan integrity. It was then reframed by the Vice Chancellor. Now we have trust, talent, ethics, revitalisasi agile, soul, bakat, etika, memperkasa tangkas dan jiwa. So the idea here is actually, again, making sure that people understand what the core values are, and they will embrace it, and they will then practice it in their day-to-day work, if I may. So I thought it's very important that for everyone in that organization to truly embrace the core values and put it into practice. Once you have that, I think inshallah, whatever you're doing will be sustainable beyond your tenure, if I may. And the third part I would like to talk about is in terms of the 8 thoughts on organizational sustainability. Now, if I may, there was a study done by a global leadership organization. So this was done by DDI together with EY, if I'm not mistaken. When they did a study, they found that purposeful organizations, where leaders bring the stated purpose to life through their own behaviors, they can perform 42% better than the other companies in market. So this is actually proven. When you have a good, effective, purposeful leader, you find that they will perform better than people who are purely driven by profit and so on. But the challenge would be, how do you ensure that such performance will be sustainable for the organization beyond the tenure of that particular leader? So there are perhaps many that you may have come across in management books and so on. But from my perspective, I thought I would share with you 8 of them that I came across. Well, first is about the need to select the right leaders for our respective organizations. Now, beyond working hard and working smart, there are 3 prerequisites to become a good and sustainable leader. So it's about having unquestionable integrity, having competence, and humility. Well, integrity, as we define it, is about doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. And in simple words, it means please don't cheat, don't steal, don't lie, don't take or give bribes, personally and organizationally. Competence is about having the necessary knowledge and skills to do the job well. So not just having the skill in your area of core competence, but also it's about continuous learning and improvement, because we must appreciate that we don't know everything, right? So we need, and we need to learn as we progress. And then the third element is about humility. Humility is probably the least spoken about. It's about treating people with mutual respect. It's about staying grounded to our roots. It's about being cognizant that we all live in this world for a greater purpose in life rather than for our self-interest. And humility is also about knowing that we don't know everything and we need teamwork in order to succeed. So for me, very clear, if you have someone who's humble, who's competent, and who's got unquestionable integrity, and he works hard and works smart, I think inshallah, he will enjoy a reputation that will precede him. The second is about the need to put into place a proper succession planning and talent review process. For most corporates, you will cover all the key positions, not just the CEO -1, but the CEO -2 and 3. For each position, you will identify who are the potential successors, when will they be ready, whether they will be ready now or in 2 years' time or 5 years' time, and what will be the intervention required to prepare that person to succeed the incumbent. So meaning that, do they need additional training in which area? Do they need exposure in business or whatever? So that's when you can actually start to reassign them to other jobs through job rotation and so on. And for any succession plan to be successful, it must be driven by the top, from the board and management. And best practice is for management to conduct a talent review session twice a year. So every 6 months, you actually go through with your management members. It's laborious, but it's actually necessary. Now, in the case of university, it's a bit unique in the sense that the appointment is actually by the minister for the key positions, both the VC and the deputy VC. But I think in the future, we hope that for the DVC, for example, if that can be empowered to the board, then it's easier for each university to have their own succession plan at the DVC level, pro deputy VC or pro VC, and then at the dean level as well. So that apart from specialization in their respective fields, they can actually look at the pathway to grow into administration, if I may. The third is about the need to strike the right balance between internal talent and external hires. Now, for me, I always believe in the need to nurture your own talent internally or grow your own team, if you like. So this is important to provide employees with good career progression opportunities. But what you will find is actually if you were to rely solely on homegrown talent, after 3 decades, 4 decades, there is a risk of that organization becoming very insular. Dia jadi macam katak bawah tempurung. Dia ingat dia yang paling bagus saja. Sebab semua daripada dalam. So to me, it's important for us to bring in talent from outside from time to time. So for the corporate sector, the rule of thumb is about 75% to 80%. You have people from internal, and 20-25% you bring in talent from outside. So that will be part of the refresh and regeneration process in that organization. Number 4 is about the need for regeneration and making sure that no one stays in their job for too long. I have this, experience where the moment you have people serving in the same position for too long, then there's a risk performance for that organization. So I think we have seen in the case of corporate sector, for example, the performance of companies where the CEOs have been there for more than 10 years would not be as good as their performance in the first 10 years. So as a rule of thumb, I would encourage that no one should be in the same position for more than 10 years, either as chairman or CEO or head of department for that matter. The idea would be if that person is good, then give him or her a bigger role or get him to manage a bigger organization. And this is good practice, again, likewise for the board members too. Now, of course, there can be exceptions to the rule, but they will have to be appropriately justified. The fifth is about the need for diversity. Well, I always believe in diversity as a source of strength for any organization. Diversity, not just in terms of gender, but skills, ethnicity, age, and even nationality for multinational organizations. So in the case of Maybank, for example, we have talents coming from other ASEAN countries because Maybank operates in ASEAN region. So we believe that organizations that have diversity will tend to perform better and more sustainably. Now, in the case of publicly listed companies, we believe that many of them have really embraced gender diversity, but we feel that it's time to broaden that diversity to include ethnicity and to include age diversity at the board level and also at the management level too. So in the case of universities, I also encourage diversity too. Again, it must reflect the, I would say, the environment that you operate in. So the sixth is about the need to be conscious about this affinity, favoritism, cronyism to prejudice continuum. Now, this is probably something that you don't get from any textbook. For me, from experience, as a human being, it is only natural that we all have affinity towards people from the same race, same religion, same school, same state, same university, and so on. Very natural. But if we do not contain our feeling of affinity, there's a risk that it may become favoritism or cronyism, and at the very extreme, it can become prejudicial to the interests of the other people. Now, I've worked in an organization where half of the management team was from the same school. And when I asked, how come this is actually the case? They will always say, oh, it's based on merit. Come on, how is it possible that the management team of your organization can come from a school that produces only 150 people per annum? Not possible, unless you practice favoritism and cronyism, right? And likewise, you may find that in some companies, you have the CEO from one state, and suddenly 1/3 of that their staff actually comes from the same state or same university. You find that sometimes the CEO from a UK university, for example, and you find that majority of them from the UK university. So I think you must be conscious. Therefore, if the composition of your management team or of your board, for that matter, is disproportionate to the environment you operate in or the stated purpose of your organization, then obviously there are some elements of favoritism or even cronyism at play. Again, at the end of the day, just look at your composition of your team and whether it's actually proportionate to the environment that you operate in or to the purpose, if I may. Seventh is about giving the young people the opportunity to lead. So I was fortunate that at the age of 37, I was given that exposure. Dr. Rahman Ahmad was 32. Likewise, Tan Sri Baki was 35 when he was appointed as the CEO of a property company. I think the time has come for us to make sure that we continue to give opportunity to young people from time to time. And this will inspire the younger generation that they don't have to wait until they reach the age of 55 before they are considered to be CEO and so on, because that can be demotivating. Of course, as I said, there must be that age diversity, Some can be from among the young, some can be from among the more senior people. And the last one is about the need to develop quality leaders in sufficient quantity. Some people often talk about the need to emphasize on quality, not on quantity. But I'm afraid my view is actually you need to pursue both. So produce as many quality people as you can. And if you're surplus over time, these people will be pinched by other people. So I always say that in the past, for example, Maybank used to complain why their people have always been poached by the other banks. It's only natural. When you are the market leader, other competitors will start to pinch your staff, right? But instead of complaining, what we told our people then was, look, okay, let's develop more people so that after 5 years, some people may want to go, fine, let them go. But at least you will have the core team of people that will remain and that will actually continue to form better into the future. So those are the 8 points I wanted to make of what can make up a sustainable organization. So if I may, before I conclude, what are the lessons learned of my final thoughts? I'll shorten it to 10 if I may. Number 1, it's important for all of us, if you want to be sustainable, that we must believe in purpose. Do good and inshallah, you will gain barakah. Number 2 is about the need to embrace the 3 key attributes of being a good and effective leader: integrity, competence, and humility. Third is about making you understand that there is no shortcut to success. You need to work both hard and smart. Working hard without proper planning is not meaningful. And likewise, if you think you can just work smart, I'm afraid in today's day and age, there are so many people who are smarter than you are. So what makes the difference? Actually, you put your intelligence and knowledge and you combine it with hard work. And I think, inshallah, you'll become more successful than the other people. Number 4 is about the need to continuously learn and to use technology to your advantage. I think we're all fortunate that we have technology, we have a wealth of information available at our fingertips. Use it to your advantage. Number 5 is about the need to focus on your task at hand and to do it well. And I think, inshallah, your reputation will precede you. Some people, they say, okay, I want to work here for a few years and then I want to move there and so on. They plan. Please don't. I think it's important for you to truly focus on your task and you do well. And be rest assured that other people will notice you. Number 6 is about the need to address the fundamentals rather than form. I have some friends who joined a new company. The first thing they did was to change the logo, do a rebranding exercise. Don't do that. I think it's actually very, very important for you to address the fundamentals first, because we just focus on form without substance, it will not get you anywhere. But once you've made fundamental improvements, then you can complement it with a good form. Then I think, inshallah, you can actually go a long way. Number 7 is about the need to keep innovating, to think outside the box for fruition in coming up with solutions. So for every problem that you have, put it down. What are the potential solutions? Again, think outside the box. And for that, make sure you assess not just what are the consequences of that decision that you're going to make, but also what will be the possible reaction of other people. So the unintended consequences, if I may. Number 8 is about the need to keep up with technology and to truly embrace sustainability. So, of course, with this COVID-19, we've all learned how to embrace technology. I did not know how to use Zoom before, so now I have no choice but to learn to use it, even though I'm 57 years old. For a guy, I said it's not, it's still young, but I'm afraid, although biologically I'm 57, professionally I'm probably more like 75 years old, if I may. But again, you need to embrace technology. You need to embrace sustainability. In the world today, we're all talking about the 3 elements of ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And on environmental, I think it's important for all of us to look after our planet and to do our best to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions to below zero. And I'm happy that the Prime Minister has announced Malaysia's commitment towards being net zero as early as 2050. Of course, a lot of work will have to be done, but all of us will have to do it. So the simplest form would be to reduce your carbon footprint, use your energy consumption, be efficient, put up your solar panel for your electricity use and so on, and many others that you can do, inshallah. Number 9 is about the need to keep healthy, to stay fit and to be healthy. Because if you're not healthy, you're not useful to your organization, you're not useful to your family even. In fact, at the very extreme, you will become a liability to both your organization and to the family. So why I'm saying this? I'm saying this because from my own personal experience, I've been too busy working. I did not look after my health. I did not exercise enough. I did not look after my diet. Diet is not just about the quantity, but it's about the type of food and the timing of food. Please, no fatty stuff, no late dinners, for example, and everything in moderation. And make sure that you allocate enough time every day, if possible, for exercising. At the very least, walk. If you can't walk outside, walk within the house and so on. Do whatever you can to keep fit, if I may. And number 10 is about the need to be grateful, helpful, and be pleasant. So I think sometimes we are too busy, we tend to forget to say thank you to the people who have helped us. We always complain about not wanting to do more than what we are supposed to do. Always be helpful to people and be pleasant. So the worst thing that can happen is that you have to deal with someone who's unpleasant. You can be rest assured if you're that person who's grumpy, who's not helpful, who's not pleasant, people do not want to deal with you. But if you are one who's actually helpful and pleasant, not only do people want to work with you, but be rest assured, they will do their best to support you because they want to see someone as pleasant as you are becoming successful. And for me personally, I'm grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all his blessings and to my parents and to my partner too. So I just wanted to share with you the photo of my parents, Haji Omar, who's 97 in 2 months' time, and Haji Halimah, my mother, who's 86 years old. And alhamdulillah, I'm fortunate because both of them are actually with me in Sampajaya. And of course, I'm also fortunate to have my wife, Kay, who's been with me for 29 years already, and very fortunate to have her, and very supportive. That enabled me to focus on my task at hand, to focus on my career and so on. So with that, again, I thank you for your attention. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have, again, not just on transformation, leadership, sustainability, but on anything that you have on your mind. Sorry, I've taken a bit more time, but I'm flexible in terms of timing for the Q&A. Thank you.
Okay, terima kasih Berbahagia Datuk, Berbahagia Tan Sri. Demikian tadi hasil perkongsian daripada Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri mengenai kupasan yang bertajuk Purposeful Leadership dan Sustainability. Dan saya sekarang buka kepada sebarang persoalan daripada para peserta. Etika untuk sesi soal jawab adalah tuan-tuan semua boleh berinteraksi terus bersama dengan Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri ataupun mengemukakan soalan di ruangan chat untuk saya ajukan kepada Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri. Okey, silakan. Terima banyak input yang telah dikongsi oleh Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri untuk mungkin boleh di adopt dan juga kita adapt daripada poin-poin tersebut, dan saya Saya rasa saya buka semula. Saya buka kepada semua sebarang persoalan ataupun ada pencerahan.
Terima kasih Puan Rugaya.
Okey, terima kasih. Silakan Puan Siti.
Okey, yang berbahagia Tan Sri, I am very inspired by your vast experience and expertise in banking and other sectors. As the chairman of the board, can you influence the government of today to make sure that elected ministers have all the 3 attributes that you have mentioned, being integrity, having integrity, competence, and humility at their ministries. And perhaps we can focus on the Ministry of Higher Education in the selection of the vice chancellors, perhaps. And because I would anticipate leaders of the future would come from the professionals like you. Thank you, Tan Sri.
Well, thank you, Puan Siti. People always say that we all deserve the leaders that we choose, right?
Yes.
So my suggestion would be, whenever it comes to election, make sure that you choose people who have got these 3 basic requirements. I think what you probably find is actually maybe many people, they have integrity, they may be competent, but sometimes you're too arrogant.
Yes.
That you have problems too, because that arrogance over time will cloud their judgment and will compromise on their integrity too. I guess it'll be the first step, so that then you will then have a much bigger pool of competent people with integrity for the winning party to then actually choose. But I guess my view is that there are certain weaknesses in the past that may have happened for certain reasons, but I think it's actually time for us to actually draw a line. And I'm happy that I'm beginning to see the trends where people are appointed have got all these 3 requirements, if I may. There may be some constraints from a political perspective, but I think in the main, I'm encouraged. I mean, certainly among the GLC's CEOs and GLIC CEOs, so they all who have been appointed, they do, in my view, possess these 3 criteria. So I can only comment in the areas that I have visibility on. But the rest, I think, inshallah, if you measure the pool have got all these 3 traits, then I think, inshallah, in future, you'll be able to actually pick leaders from among people with those 3 qualities. Sorry, if I may, maybe my answer is quite generic, but again, it all starts with us, right?
Yes.
And that's why I always say that if we can all do what we can within our circle of influence, I think, inshallah, when you add up all these small efforts, it will add up to something very useful and meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri.
Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum Tan Sri.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okey, saya Azman Hashim, Ketua Perpustakaan Universiti Malaysia Kelantan. Okey, sebagaimana yang kita tahu, background Tan Sri ni adalah pakar dalam bidang banking, ekonomi. So, telah berkecimpung dalam bidang yang agak lama. Kali saya nak fokus belakang mungkin Tan Sri melihat dari segi aspek ekonomi, aspek kewangan negara, banking sector yang merupakan salah satu penggerak utama kepada pembangunan negara kan. So what you think about library ataupun ilmu itu sebagai salah satu daripada komoditi? Because as we can see, without the right information, without the right data analysis, pakar-pakar ekonomi tidak boleh membuat satu keputusan atau penilaian dalam mereka menentukan hala tuju sebuah negara ataupun ekonomi negara. So what you think the importance of information commodity dalam kepentingan ekonomi sektor di negara kita ni, Tan Sri? Please comment about it, Tan Sri, because orang melihat bahawa sekarang ni seolah-olah mereka mencari ilmu tapi tidak menghargai siapa yang memberi ilmu itu ataupun yang menguruskan ilmu itu. So saya minta kalau boleh Tan Sri boleh komen on that aspect Tan Sri. Terima kasih Tan Sri.
Terima kasih Encik Azman. Memang ilmu, data, maklumat, knowledge adalah penting. Dan memang betul kalau kita tidak mempunyai data yang mencukupi, maklumat yang mencukupi, keputusan yang kita buat memang akan salah. Bukan saya tidak tepat, akan salah. So you have the wrong information, wrong data, you will be making the wrong decision for sure. Dan saya sendiri, kalau saya tidak ada data, figures, then I will have problem. So saya tak pandai nak waffle. Nak pusing-pusing tak erti. So kalau ada data, then I can talk. Without data, I can't. I struggle. So the only thing is actually with technology, we are now able to collect more data and information, and we can then actually make it accessible to more people in a real-time way. And I think this is where if you talk about library, the physical library of the past is inadequate. So tak cukup, right? So setakat nak tunggu buku tu terhad. Dan terhad tu bukan saja whether you actually having the latest, it's impossible for you to have the full collection. And this is where digital will enable you to actually have the collection of books and information, knowledge and data from all over. I always argue that actually now, today, the biggest library is actually not the ones in Oxford or in Cambridge or in Harvard or MIT. Actually, the biggest library today is actually Google. So it's got a lot of wealth of information out there. So cuma in Google ni is ada banyak influence lah. So of course, those who pay will get their information being projected at the front of the queue, so to speak. But I think if you can actually make sure that every library in universities well equipped with access to information, and then you structure it in a manner that you can determine the importance and so on, the reliability and so on. So then it's something which people, when they want to access information, is all there, and it doesn't have to be on your platform directly. You can actually have those on your own platform, and then you can actually link it with all the other universities too, and then the access to other non-university platforms too. So I think if that can be done, I think it would be great. So again, not just a place where people go to access physical books, or today I know many of my own children and my nephews and nieces, they go to the library. Why? Because of the broadband access and quiet space. Not so much of having access to the books and so on. So I think if you can actually somehow turn library into a digital library, where it's not confined to only the books that you have, but you have network with all the other libraries of universities and other even commercial entities, I think that would be great. As you know, some information will be free. Most information are free, but if you can also enable those who want additional quality information data to be paid, yeah, enable that. So I think there's opportunity for the libraries of universities to work towards that, if I may. So I hope I've answered your question, Chazman.
Terima kasih Tan Sri.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Tan Sri. Ada apa-apa lagi? Yang ni kalau tidak, saya ada satu soalan dalam chat ni daripada Dr. Kasiah Zakaria, Ketua Pustakawan UM, yang berbahagia Tan Sri. Complacency could also mean stability or self-satisfaction, especially when accompanied by unawareness or actual dangers or deficiencies. In your experience with the university, do you think we have been democratic enough to offer cross-fertilization of skills among the selection of top management of universities. Silakan Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri.
Yeah, thank you. So I think if I may, human nature, if we don't, we're not conscious, we will tend to get into a certain state of mind or subconscious where we will only be doing things that we are familiar with. We will only be dealing with people whom we are comfortable and familiar with, and we will only we'll be living in that comfort zone and wouldn't want to actually venture outside. And typically also, human nature, if you're not careful, you'll end up hardening that silo mentality too. So what happens in many large organizations, so you will have departments or divisions trying to protect their respective areas and refusing to cooperate with other departments. And of course, at the entity level, then you will have difficulty between one entity and another and so on. So I think it's actually very important for you to get the people to embrace that culture of being inclusive. And to my mind, there are many things you can do apart from the team building efforts from the start, is also to make sure that you only identify with only one organization. So meaning that, so maybe I can use the example of the government. There was a time when the government was encouraging each ministry to have their own branding, right? So you will have, and suddenly you find that whenever you attend a conference, you have suddenly, there'll be 5 ministries sponsoring that seminar, and so on, for example, and they all have different logos. And it started to then harden the silo that you have between one and another. Cooperation was really lacking. So one of the things that we did was, apart from addressing the underlying issues, getting the KSUs to collaborate with one another, having more access of information, data, sharing with one another, we also started to actually remove that individual branding. We actually got everyone to use only the Jata Negara, the crest. So what will happen, okay, with the crest, we have Kementerian Kewangan. The crest, Unit Perancang Ekonomi. The crest will be Kementerian Kesihatan and so on. With that way, you do not harden that silo mentality with the other people. Now, in respect to the direct to the question, so the idea would be in the process. So I'm privileged to be a member of the select committee for vice chancellors. So what we've done, we have built up a process whereby whenever a vice chancellor's position is available, so what we require would be for the board to do the evaluation on the incumbent, whether or not they're happy with the performance of the incumbent and whether they're recommending renewal or not. So that'll be the first step. And then if there's consensus to say that, okay, we need a new leader, then the board will then be made to advertise that position, and both internal and external advertisement. So again, the idea would be to get as many candidates as possible to be evaluated. And then we'll go through a shortlisting process at the board level, LPU level. Will then be submitted to the ministry, to JPT. Then from there, it will then be screened together with the committee, and then will be submitted to the minister. Minister will then go through the shortlisting, and then we then determine who will be interviewed, and then the committee will then interview and then recommend to the minister. So through that process, I think hopefully we will end up with the right candidate helming the respective university. So in that evaluation, we take into account everything. The competency, again, of course, the requirement for integrity will be there, humility will be there, and that will be part of the evaluation that we go through. So in the end, we'll make a number of recommendations, and it will then be up to the minister to then pick from among the recommended candidates to be appointed. Of course, there will be exceptions to the rule. Sometimes there will be changes in between, but those are exceptions. But what I've just mentioned is actually the standard process, which we hope will be the standard process into the future. And I think in terms of governance, there's a lot under the Green Book, the University Transformation Book, which I hope all universities will start to actually study and to actually practice it, if I may. So I hope I've answered the question. Thank you.
Tan Sri, satu lagi tadi, saya berminat yang Tan Sri cakap tadi. Ni daripada Azman juga Tan Sri. Minta maaf nanti ni agak mungkin ada orang lain nak, tapi saya nak tanya because berkaitan, because Tan Sri is the selected committee. But anyway, this is only a discussion, Tan Sri. Off record lah. Just I want to ask regarding about what you think kalau katakanlah universiti awam Malaysia ni, kerajaan sekarang telah mengarahkan universiti sekarang ni general income. They want semua universiti memikirkan macam mana, because government mungkin no longer lagi macam dulu nak bagi bajet yang tinggi kepada UA untuk bergerak whatever. So sekarang dia melihat bahawa UA dah mula kena mencari duit sendiri dalam percentage yang tertentu lah. So what you think kalau kata adakah boleh dalam konteks sekarang ni the Vice Chancellor itu sendiri adalah dari kalangan orang-orang corporate yang memikirkan macam mana nak generate income selain daripada mungkin dalam konteks lain mungkin dia mengubah structure of the university itu, mungkin dari segi aspek divisi itu dia melihat macam mana nak mencari sumber kewangan, and then academic matters nanti mungkin ada satu bahagian lagi yang memikirkan tentang academic matters untuk peningkatan bersesuaian dengan kehendak pasaran ataupun bersesuaian dengan macam mana nak universiti tersebut nak mencari kewangan atau branding universiti tersebut. Is it possible it can happen that way? Rasa saya mungkin ada universiti lain di luar negara setelah melihat ke arah itu, because without money universiti pun agak sukar untuk bergerak kan. So what you think on that aspect?
Ya, dia masih catatan, dia balik kepada purpose juga. So maknanya apakah tujuan dan apakah model yang kita rasa sesuai untuk negara kita, untuk UAE kita. Jadi kalau katanya pada masa yang akan datang, kerajaan memang jelas kata dia nak limit kepada sama ada peratusan, sama ada 70% or 50% will come from government, ataupun government nak kata okay, I will not give you direct funding, but I will send you the students. Then it's up to you to actually develop your own revenue. Then of course, kalau begitu memang keperluan untuk mendapat CEO yang lebih cenderung kepada elemen komersial, pendanaan, itu penting. Tanpa without ignoring the need for academic excellence. Dan sebab itulah ada sebahagian daripada universiti di luar, dia ada dua fungsi. Dia ada provost. Sebenarnya bukan seorang CEO yang looking after the commercial and the academic side. So dia ada split the role. Itu mungkin untuk pada masa akan datang. Tapi bagi saya, kalau kita lantik seseorang yang berkaliber, beliau boleh mungkin boleh manage lah. Tetapi di mana beliau perlu mempunyai timbalan yang mahir dalam bidang pendanaan. So mungkin inilah orang yang datang daripada luar, boleh juga. Tapi ini memerlukan acceptance daripada masyarakat akademia. Sebab saya setelah 3 tahun saya di sini dan berinteraksi dengan banyak ramai orang-orang daripada universiti awam yang lain, termasuklah di ACAP, saya mendapati kadang-kadang tu resepsi terhadap seseorang yang datang daripada luar bidang akademik adalah kurang. Jadi dia memerlukan satu minda yang terbuka untuk menerima kemasukan bakat-bakat baru daripada luar. Dan saya juga ingin menekankan pentingnya mereka-mereka yang di dalam akademia ini perlu keluar di industri. So there should be both ways. So people from industry with experience and knowledge to actually go into universities to teach and to do research. And likewise, we need all the senior lecturers, professors to actually go out there. Sebab kadang saya bagi contoh, bagaimana, how do we want to profess to students if we ourselves are not been in practice. So sebagai contoh, kalau profesor dalam bidang architecture, seni bina, so dia nak bercerita tentang design-design yang canggih, tapi dia sendiri tak pernah design sebuah bangunan yang dah pun dibina. So it will be very theoretical. Dan begitu juga kalau macam mereka yang di luar sana, dia main praktis saja apa yang dia dah biasa, tapi tak ada suntikan idea-idea baru, kajian, research yang baru, akan merugikan. So that's why I think that there should be greater blending from people from within to go outside and outside to actually come in. And over time, once you have that, in fact, naturally, that will facilitate the more funding coming from outside. Of course, it's a progress. Saya rasa dia juga berkaitan dengan jumlah jutawan yang ada dalam negara kita berbanding dengan di Amerika sebagai contohnya. Dan dia juga berkait rapat dengan pemikiran. Di mana kalau di barat ni banyak dah mereka memikir bahawa keluarga, keperluan keluarga hanya sebanyak ini dan selebihnya perlu dibahagikan kepada masyarakat. Tapi di Malaysia ni mungkin lebih ramai billionaire dan yang masih berfikir ini semua akan diturunkan kepada keluarga dan tidak kepada manfaat komuniti seperti universiti sebagai contohnya. Again, it's a matter of, it's an evolution, I would say. Dan saya rasa mungkin insyaAllah akan berubah, but it takes time, if I may.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Tan Sri.
Terima kasih Tan Sri. Saya rasa mungkin ada soalan yang lebih kurang mengenai menjana pendapatan daripada Puan Nur Azah Mumin, Ketua Pustakawan USIM. Boleh Tan Sri terangkan lebih jelas berkenaan solar panel dan juga potensi untuk perpustakaan memanfaatkan untuk jana pendapatan dan jimatkan keuangan. Okey, silakan Tan Sri.
Terima kasih Puan Nur Azah. Sebenarnya dalam konteks electricity ni, so memang kita nak pastikan bahawa dalam energy mix kita, kita nak eliminate coal, arang batu. So dan untuk itu kita perlukan lebih renewable energy dan solar energy merupakan satu sumber yang paling murah lah dan paling mudah sebab kita ada banyak sunlight. Cuma isu dengan solar energy ni, dia sebab dia tidak boleh dijana pada waktu malam dan maka dia tidak boleh digunakan sebagai apa yang kita sebut base load. So you still need gas, for example, to be used as a base load. Untuk universiti dan syarikat awam, memang kita digalakkan untuk sekurang-kurangnya menggunakan solar panel ini untuk penggunaan electricity kita sendiri. Sebab kalau kita nak jana selebihnya dan untuk supply kepada grid, dia memerlukan kelulusan yang di mana kuotanya adalah limited. So kita ada Suruhanjaya Tenaga yang menentukan siapa yang boleh membina solar panel ini untuk dibekalkan kepada tenaga, dan ini perlu ada perjanjian dengan tenaga nasional dan sebagainya. Jadi apa yang saya nak sebutkan ini, kalau kita boleh dapat kuota macam UiTM dapat kuota saya, dan by all means go for it. Tapi memang kita sedar bahawa kuota ni adalah limited. Jadi sekurang-kurangnya kalau kita boleh pasang solar panel ini untuk memenuhi penggunaan universiti kita sendiri masing-masing. So I think that would be a good start. Cuma saya nak galakkan, janganlah buat ataupun pasang solar panel ini di atas tanah. Ya, sebab ini merupakan satu kerugian di mana kita, apabila kita letak atas tanah tu, so tanah tu tak boleh ada kegunaan lain lah dalam jangka masa 21 tahun ataupun 25 tahun solar panel itu berfungsi. Kalau boleh gunakan rooftop di mana dia akan memberikan kesan yang baik sebab dia akan mengurangkan suhu untuk kos pendinginan dan sebagainya, ataupun kita letak dalam sebagai bumbung untuk fasiliti-fasiliti yang lain ataupun disatukan dengan agriculture, pertanian dan sebagainya. Saya cadangkan pursue this, tapi kena bincang dengan Suruhanjaya Tenaga sebab mereka yang memberikan kelulusan. But highly encourage, insyaAllah.
Terima kasih Tan Sri. Ada soalan yang daripada Dr. Kasiah Zakaria daripada UM yang berbahaya, Tan Sri, an interview may be defined as a systematic and scientific process used in the employee selection. Can you share how you select your candidate?
Well, thank you, Doctor. In the first place, you want to widen the pool first. So you want people who are interested to actually apply. You also want to see, you also need to scan the market whether there are other people who should be in the pool to be considered before you shortlist them for interview. So from that evaluation of normally the written CVs, and you do some background check, you then interview them. So from the interview, I tend to establish two things. One is actually understanding their comprehension of the subject matter, depending on which area that we are hiring them for. And secondly, making sure that they appreciate the task that he or she will be assuming, and then what will be their planning, their strategy. So I guess a big focus of every interview will be about understanding the plans of that person should they be given the opportunity to lead that organization. And I think from there, of course, you also be able to understand their ability to articulate the issues, how possibly to be able to interact. So these are the things that you actually look for in the interview process. The clarity of mind, the thinking. But on top of that, outside of the interview, will be the reference checks. So you will want to talk to people whom they have worked for before or worked with before. And then you need to verify some of the claims that they have made possibly. So Doctor, I'm not sure whether I've answered your question. So again, given the limited time that we have for every interview, for most people it will be between 45 minutes to 1 hour. So you need to optimize that time to then typically assess their suitability in being able to articulate how they will go about taking on the new role, as opposed to trying to validate what they did in the past. Because you do that before the shortlisting process. But having said that, sometimes when they have a lot of claims inside the CV, you also want to test them on one or two, just to make sure that what they've stated is actually really what they can actually explain. Because sometimes on paper looks very good, but the moment they open their mouth, they will go all over the places. Then you know that they were not necessarily the one driving those changes that they claimed before. Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Ada satu lagi soalan daripada Cik Aini Yusof daripada USM, Timbalan Ketua Pustakawan. Work under pressure, people will be more creative. Apa pandangan Tan Sri?
So you work under pressure?
People will be more creative.
I think finally it depends the extent of the pressure. So if the pressure will have to be enough to push someone to think about the solutions, but it cannot be too great that jadi tepu in the sense, if I may use that word. So naturally, when you face with challenges, it will get you to respond in a positive way. So yes, in general, when people are under pressure, they tend to actually, it will force them to think outside the box and so on. So I mean, to that point, if I may, Puan, going back to my Maybank days, right? So as I said, Maybank had been #1 bank for many years, for more than 10 years. And every year, Maybank would be reporting record profit. So it gave the impression that Maybank was unshakable. It was actually plain sailing and so on. So people would be very complacent. But the moment we showed to them that Maybank was under threat, we actually put everyone on a burning platform, right? A burning platform means that if we don't do anything, all of us will die, right? So when we put everyone on that burning platform, the pressure was actually great. And people then start to think, okay, what do we have to do in order to actually rise up? So that's when we started to put on our thinking cap. And that's when we collaborated with each other and came up with that performance improvement program that we call IP30. So true, in many cases, people tend to perform when they are under pressure. But if it's too much pressure beyond what they can comprehend, of course, that can be another challenge where some of them may just throw in the towel. So you don't want that to happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tan Sri. Ada satu soalan, okay, daripada Encik Azmi, UKM. Bagaimana Tan Sri melihat work-life balance? How do you define happiness?
Yeah, I'm probably the worst person to ask about work-life balance. It's always been work-life imbalance daripada muda-muda lagi. But anyway, so that's a lesson learned for me. But to me, at the end of the day, it all depends on the trust that was placed on you, right? So sometimes you are given amanah yang diberikan ni terlalu besar that you terpaksa kerja lebih, fokus lebih pada kerja berbanding dengan keluarga. But you compensate that with having a partner who's understanding and who will actually take over that part. So in my case, between me and my wife, we made that conscious decision that my wife will quit her job and focus on the family so that I can actually deliver the amanah that was actually given to me. And alhamdulillah, with that understanding, we were able to actually manage the situation. But that was then. Now, with the advent of technology, alhamdulillah, I think the majority of us will be able to have that work-life balance. Why? Because we do not have to be physically present in the office all the time. We do not have to get things done by meeting people physically. So a lot of things can be done online, where you save the traveling time, and you can also operate from home. So for example, so in the past, it's like impossible for me to have dinner with the family, but today is easy. Why? Because I can arrange such that whatever I need to be done in the office, I get it done. But before Maghrib, I will be home. And then I will then have dinner with my family after Maghrib. And then after that, I can go back to do work. If I need to do a conference call, I will schedule it after dinner. So for example, tonight, there's supposed to be a conference call. That person from Europe wanted to have that conference call at 7:30 p.m. I said, no, I can't do it earlier because I have other meetings. Sorry, 7:30, no go. But let's have it at 10 p.m. Of course, dia terkejut lah. Kat Europe kita, 10 p.m. So I'll be encroaching into your time. No, 10 p.m. is actually better for me because I would have had my dinner with the family from 8 to 9-ish, then prepare sometime leisure time before I start to work again. So again, with that benefit of technology today, alhamdulillah, there is no reason why we cannot lead a more balanced life. And likewise, kalau dulu tu to go for holiday sometimes actually impossible with the family, right? Nak balik kampung kena schedule betul, but now it's okay. So you just go and just make sure that you have you cover out some time to be able to actually do your job and so on. So better chance today than before. No excuse.
Terima kasih berbahagia Tan Sri. Saya mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada semua yang mengemukakan soalan dan juga dengan jawapan yang sangat bernas daripada yang berbahagia Tan Sri, dan oleh kerana masa tidak mengizinkan, sebenarnya kami masih lagi ingin mendapat tips dan juga poin-poin input yang boleh kami peroleh daripada Tan Sri. Dan sekali lagi saya mohon agar yang berbahagia Tan Sri dapat memberi sedikit kesimpulan ataupun rumusan yang telah kita dengar sepanjang pagi tadi, dan memang banyak. Okey, silakan yang berbahagia Tan Sri.
Terima kasih Puan Gaya dan juga Puan Zara kena beri peluang pada saya berinteraksi dengan rakan-rakan pustakawan yang lain. Jadi bagi saya, kadang-kadang kita ni manusia, orang Malaysia ni, sometimes we are too hard on ourselves. We tend to look at the grass as being greener on the other side. We tend to look at the glass as being half empty as opposed to being half full. We tend to focus on things that divide us as opposed to things that unite us. Jadi saya, alhamdulillah, saya telah berpeluang untuk menerjui banyak organisasi dan juga yang beroperasi di negara-negara luar, di serantau ASEAN seperti Maybank, Telkom Malaysia ataupun UM, dan biasa ke negara-negara yang lain berinteraksi dengan mereka dan sebagainya. Dan memang bagi saya ada banyak perkara yang perlu diperbaiki dalam negara kita ini. Memang kita tidak perfect. Tetapi bagi saya banyak perkara yang lebih baik daripada negara-negara lain juga. Dan kalau boleh kita mengambil iktibar daripada negara Thailand. Di negara Thailand ni, every few years mereka daripada dulu lagi mereka akan ada disturbances, kudeta, rampasan kuasa oleh militeri memang akan terjadi daripada masa ke semasa. In fact, sekarang ni pun kerajaan yang ada ni pun di bawah influence militeri, walaupun dah dikatakan demokrasi. Dari masa ke semasa dia ada isu red shirt dengan yellow shirt, right? Tetapi kita lihat, walaupun dia ada banyak masalah daripada masa ke semasa, bertahun-tahun lamanya, tapi negara mereka terus maju. Kenapa? Kerana mereka mempunyai rakyat yang bersikap membina. Jadi civil service mereka terus buat kerja. Rakyat Malaysia yang berniaga terus buat perniagaan mereka. Yang lain semua fokus kepada tugas masing-masing. Dan bagi saya, pertama sekali, negara kita tidaklah seteruk mana berbanding dengan banyak negara lain, tetapi banyak perkara yang perlu diperbaiki. Dan kalau kita memastikan bahawa kita buat tugas kita dengan baik dan kita influence keluarga kita buat perkara yang sama, dan kalau kita bersikap membina, jangan suka hentam je. Kadang-kadang tu dalam social media ni suka hentam je, tidak membina langsung. Dan kita berpegang kepada semangat dan hasrat rukun negara, bukan saja kepada 5 prinsip-prinsip tu, kepercayaan kepada Tuhan, kesetiaan kepada raja dan negara, keluhuran perlembagaan, kedaulatan undang-undang, kesepadan dan kesusilaan, tapi juga kepada 5 objektif masyarakat Malaysia yang kita nak bentuk, yang juga selaras dengan wawasan kemakmuran bersama, dan ini juga telah di incorporate dalam rancangan Malaysia ke-12 untuk mewujudkan sebuah Malaysia yang makmur, yang inklusif, dan mampan, saya rasa insya-Allah negara kita ini akan terus maju walaupun terdapat apa-apa cabaran. So it's all up to us basically to do what's right for the country in our respective circle of influence. Because collectively, when you add up all this, we'll move towards that. So with that, dengan itu terima kasih Puan Gaya, Puan Zahra dan rakan semua di atas masa yang diberikan kepada saya. Saya berharap dapat datangkan manfaat. Saya notice petang ni pun ada sesi dengan Datuk Norman Halim. Itu jiran saya di Saberjaya. Tak ramai orang duduk di Saberjaya dan Putrajaya, dan saya sering nak galakkan kawan-kawan pindah ke Saberjaya dan Putrajaya. But anyway, look forward to engaging with you the next time insyaAllah dengan di ACAP and so on. So I wish you all the best. As librarians, you have the power to change, but embrace technology. Do a lot more digital to improve the connectivity and so on. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, terima kasih banyak. Okey, para hadirin yang saya hormati sekalian, maka selesailah sesi 1 yang bersama yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Seri Abdul Wahid bin Umar dengan kupasan tajuk yang sangat-sangat menarik dan banyak sangat padat dengan tips dan juga input yang kita akan gunakan dalam topik Purposeful Leadership and Sustainability. Dan saya rasa kita sangat bertuah lah dengan beberapa input yang kita perolehi dan mengharapkan agar semua successor yang ada di sini dan juga ketua pustakawan dapat mengambil iktibar dan juga manfaat yang telah kita perolehi. Very fruitful, very informative and inspiring kepada kita semua. Seterusnya saya kembalikan serahkan kembali kepada majlis ini kepada pengurusi majlis. Okey, terima kasih. Sila Arianti.
Okey, terima kasih sekali lagi kepada Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Seri Abdul Wahid Umar dan juga kepada Puan Moderator Puan Rugaya Ali. Okey, para hadirin yang dihormati, bagi meraihkan majlis sebagai tanda kenang-kenangan, para hadirin diminta mengaktifkan kamera masing-masing untuk sesi bergambar. Sedia? 1, 2, cheese! Sekali lagi, thumbs up. 1, 2, cheese! Terima kasih atas kerjasama yang berbahagia Tan Sri, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. Okey, tuan-tuan, puan-puan, para peserta program, kita akan berehat seketika dan akan bersiaran semula pada jam 10.55 pagi. Terima kasih dan jumpa lagi.
Okay, terima kasih banyak Tan Sri. Terima kasih Datuk Ladi.
Lagi
panggil lagi.
Terima kasih Tan Sri. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Tan Sri. So kalau balik kampung, drive safely and defensively. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, take care Tan Sri.
Salam.